Today on Smackey's Garage, we're going to be building a custom bracket for my Iterative fuel gauge, which is mounted to my steering column on my 1969 Mustang. And if all goes well, I'll have it available that if anyone else wants it, they can grab one too. So let's go ahead and look at exactly what we're going to be building today. Now this is my 1969 Mustang. It's a car that I've restored, that I've been enjoying, and I've probably spent most of this summer actually driving it around and enjoying it rather than taking it apart and working on it, which has been a nice change for me. I think having a child, so if you don't know, I have a child now that's 15 months old, really taken away from a little bit of the garage time. I wanted to make sure that when I did want to enjoy this car, it was always available to drive. So I've been spending a lot of time doing other projects on other cars and then taking this to shows and really enjoying it. But now it's getting close to fall time. I'm driving this a little bit more. I think it's ready to come apart for the winter. And I think there's a few projects that I want to do. And the first one I want to address is this up here. I want to work on this Iterative fuel gauge. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So on my 1969 Mustang, you can see the Iterative fuel gauge is mounted right here, right in the center of the dash. You know, this is the location where I like it so I can see as I'm tuning the car. Now, good location, but there's really no good way to mount it here on this dash. Now we'll take a look here, and you can see the way that I have it mounted right now is it's just being held in by a giant hose clamp. So, you know, it's being held in, and the reason why you have to do that is because you know, you can't really drill into your steering column, nor do I really want to. And there isn't really a good solution that mounts it here, at least that I found for this car. I'd really like to have this mounted a lot cleaner than it is today. So we're going to talk about the way that we're going to make this piece so that it actually looks significantly better than the setup that I have. And this is what we're going to use to do just that. So this is a Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon 3D printer. You know, I've been playing around with it for the past few weeks, doing some small home projects with it. I built my friend a mount for his Starlink for his van, so I've been using it to build a lot of different things, preparing for this project here. So I think what we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try to model it in SolidWorks, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna try to build it here. Now, my goal of the way that I'm trying to build it is something that's really strong, really sturdy, and it's going to work with the Autometer 2 1/16 gauge mount. Now, this piece is going to be custom made to fit specifically the steering column on a 1969 Mustang. Now, if you know the 1969 Mustang steering column, there is a steering column, which is a tube, and then there's a piece underneath that houses all the wires that come up to where the horn is, where the blinkers are, and all those controls. So we're going to need to work around that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try to custom model a piece that's going to work for this. And then we're gonna print a bunch of them out to see which ones we can get to work best. And then I'm gonna make it as user-friendly as possible to put together. So let's go ahead and let's measure this out and see exactly what we need to build. Now, I might need to buy a bigger pair of calipers to do this because I don't think that these are gonna reach exactly where I want them to. But it's gonna be close, so we're gonna try it first with these to see if I can get there. So the columns, we're gonna say it's 2.27, so I'm gonna call it 2 1/4 to start. And then where I'm putting this on, I can see this little channel here. Now this little channel is going to be 1.08 inches wide. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna draw this up. So we said this is gonna be a circle like this. So that's the column. From here to here is 2.27. And then underneath we have this piece here, which is 1.08. Have this diameter, have this assumption that this is on the center line. I just need to figure out how far this sticks out at the highest point. Then I should be able to take this, model this, put it into CAD, and then build something that goes around it. Now, what I'm thinking right now to start is maybe 2 separate pieces that go around. So one around here, then one around here that fit over this. So last measurement from here to the bottom of this is 2.5 inches, which puts this at about 1/4 inch, assuming that this is actually 2.25. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna put this on, and we're gonna design this and then see what we can build around it. Now, my modeling software of choice is SolidWorks, so we're gonna go ahead and work within that. Now, the first thing that I had to do was build the steering column shape because this is what I'm going to base my design off of. So my idea was to build, prototype, and print this first compare it to the current steering column, and then see how it comes out, because working on this is going to be much easier than actually working on the steering column in the car where there's limited room. And then the 3D printer itself has a time-lapse feature, so I can just show you guys exactly what it looks like when it's getting built. Not in real time, but much quicker than real time. All right, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and take the part out now and take a look at how it came out. So it came out nice and easy, actually. Now, the first thing I created was this here. It's a replica of the steering column so that I can build the parts around this and test it out. So I'm going to go ahead and take some measurements to this, see if it matches up what's already in there. And you know, it's typically pretty good. So I got 226 on this side, 1.077 here, and then when I do it overall, 2.49. So everything is looking pretty good. And this is one of the benefits of using 3D printers for this stuff. So now that I have this, you know, it did tell me how much it cost in there, but I didn't catch it. This is something I can just use now to put together exactly what I want. So now that I have this, I can go ahead and I can start working on the next piece, which is the actual clips that are going to go around it. Now for these clips, my idea is to start with something simple. Get the geometry right just on the bottom where I'm going to have it screwed together. Then after I get that right, I can go on to the next step and build the top piece. Now for these parts, they came out pretty good. All I need to do is remove them and we'll see if they fit. All right, so I have a feeling this is going to take a few revisions, but we got our first parts off of it. Let's go ahead and take a look at how they came out. So we have the steering column here. So this is the diameter, the shape of the 69 Mustang steering column. We're going to be taking these parts, putting them around the outside, and checking for fit. Now, initially I want to make sure that I got the shape right. It should be pretty good, pretty close, and still need to do some work to them. I need a few different things. I need to fix these holes on the bottom here, because if we look at these holes, I think one of the things that you realize is they're really close to the edge. Can't do that. And then on the top, we need some sort of fixture here to mount. Now that gauge pod just came in, so now that it's here, I can take the measurements from it and build that into SolidWorks, and we can go on to the next revision. So after I got the gauge cup in, I went ahead and moved on to the next revision. On this next revision, I wanted to make sure that I had a place to mount the gauge cup, but it took me about 5 or 6 revisions to get everything where I want to. So when you look at the final product in the end, it really did take a long time to get there. Now you can go ahead and take a look at how many revisions I've actually done for this. And we have a lot of different revisions that have been built. So this is the one that I originally showed you. This is the one that I pulled together that didn't have the top, so no place to mount. I got the gauge pod now, so it's right here. I'll make sure that I link this gauge pod down below in the description. With that gauge pod, I then put the mounts for it. Then I realized it didn't fit, so I had to go to the next one. I moved that up a little bit, that hole up top where it's going to mount. And then after that, I had to round these off to make this work. And then I just kept iterating on it. And you can see here, I started playing with PLA, but I started playing with the heat set inserts that I want to use to capture the screws in so that it stays in there securely. And I did that with PLA, but then I decided I want to move to PETG because, you know, I wanted a different material that I was probably closer to that I was going to end up with. So I ended up building a bunch of these and playing around with different geometries for these heat set inserts. And after that, I ended up moving to ABS to some of these more final ones. And you can see that these ones came out pretty nice. Now, the final parts aren't going to be white. They're just white right now because it's much easier to show up on camera, much easier to see how everything's fitting against a black steering column. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to heat set some more inserts into these. Then we're going to go ahead and test them out in the car, see how it fits, see what else needs to change. Now, putting these in, it's as easy as just dropping them in and using a soldering iron until they go flush. Now, one of the things that I learned while doing this is that I needed to get the geometry of this hole perfect or close enough to where I want it so that nothing else would deform on this piece as I'm pushing them in. There we go. Some of the material does come out the back, but that's to be expected. You can clean that up, but you can see these two are completely in and they should hold. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this one out and just get it ready to go in the new piece. Yeah, I should probably clean this up before I get the final piece on. But now that that's off, I can go ahead and check this fitment on it and see how close we are. So overall, looks pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and get this screwed in. All right, so we are installed and we can take a look at it. And I think it came out really nice. Now looking how it's set up in here. So I have these two 440 screws down here that are holding this together, clamping everything together. And then the single bolt up here with a nut on the other side that's holding it in place. Now, I mean, ideally, there really isn't a lot of room in here to have this, so I've kind of made it work. Now, ideally this would be pushed back a little bit. This could maybe move a little bit forward, but looking at the way that it's set up now, it doesn't really matter. I do have it pretty tightened down right now, but you can see it's not going anywhere. So one of the things I want to do now is I want to make one out of black material and see how it looks. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with how this came out. For a good first project for 3D printed material for the car, it does look really good. I have the texture on both on this side, so it's facing you. And then everything's just fits really well. It's in there nice and tight. Never had this luxury on this car. I've always been running that hose clamp. So I'm going to go ahead and make one out of the black material now, and we'll see how it looks on the car. For those of you wondering how strong 3D printed material is, here is a nice giant C-clamp on the bracket itself, and just bouncing back and forth. And you can see it's really right there on that edge. So this material is very strong. I'm working with ABS, so it's not like the old 3D printed material where things broke very easily. I am really impressed with the material and how this works. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at how this came out. I have to say, I'm pretty happy with it. All right, so this is what it looks like in the car, and you can see just right through the steering wheel, that's the perfect position for that gauge, so I'm really happy with how this came out. It has black pieces on either side, so I've gotten rid of the old nuts and bolts that were on this, and this has been upgraded to a black oxide bolt. And then the two 440 screws down here have also been changed to black as well. So everything matches the interior. It does have texture on it that I do feel like matches the car pretty well, but it's really hard to see down there because it is kind of tight up in the steering wheel here. But we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take this for a drive. So in my opinion, this is definitely the best place for this gauge. I mean, if you're accelerating, you're looking straight. I mean, having this right here is in the right place to see how your car is performing and what the air to fuel is. I do have gauges down there, which are nice, but it's nothing like this one here that's right in your view. Now, while I did this testing, I did test it with the old hardware on it. So the old bolt, as well as the chrome style screws, those have been replaced since then. So any package that you do order would come with whatever is the latest one, which would be the black oxide ones. All right, so I'm very happy with the way that this turned out, and I'm so happy with it that I'm gonna offer it up on my website. So I've been creating a new website. It's smackysgarage.com. It's powered by Shopify, so everything you see in there, you can pay with normal cards, everything to purchase. Now, I've made a bunch of these that I'm gonna have available. I'm selling it two different ways. One, you can buy it just as this clip or clamp down here that goes on the steering column itself. And if you buy it that way, you're gonna have to buy this Autometer 2204 to mount to it, or I'm selling it together with the Autometer 2204. Either way, you can see it. You can go to the website and check it out. Also, while you're there, leave me any feedback for the website. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, what else I should offer. But my main goal is to build a lot of custom parts for stuff that I'm doing either on the cars or in the garage. Thanks for tuning in this week on Smacky's Garage. I'll see you next time.